Alright, so I got a request to do this video, so we're just going to do a quick tutorial on how to polish your combat boots or your military dress shoes that are leather. This is going to be mainly for parade boots, your dress shoes. It's not a very durable polish as it comes off in high stress areas like the crease of the toe. Only things that you need to polish, I have a cup of warm water here. I just have regular Kiwi shoe polish, nothing special, not the Parade Gloss. I have a 100% cotton t-shirt, just an old t-shirt that I use for polishing. And then I have a heat gun. You could probably use a heat dryer, that would probably work. I would stay away from an open flame. Definitely don't use a torch, and lighters are really prone to damaging the leather. I have stripped my boots, just the toes down to pure leather. So this is basically what it's going to be like when you first buy them. So the first step is going to be cleaning your boots. Just take your polishing rag here and find a clean spot. Way we're wrapping our fingers, so you just put two fingers inside on a clean spot, hold the other side with your other hand and twist your fingers, wrap it around and grab it with your hand. So you're left with a very taut wrapping of just cotton around your fingertips. Just take a dip of your water, really soak it up, and then go ahead and clean your boot, all the surfaces that you're going to be polishing, and then just take another dry spot of your rag and wipe it dry. So I will go ahead and do that for the other boot and remove the laces, and I will get back with you. Alright, so I got both boots prepped here. We got the leather clean, we got the soles clean, and the laces are removed. The laces are very important to remove so that you can get underneath these creases here and get polish there, because if you don't polish all the way up to the edge of the leather, the polish is more prone to cracking. What I'm going to do is polish one of these boots and then give you a before and after, so you can see how quickly you can get a high polish shine on combat boots like this. The next step will be to add 3 layers of shoe polish. They're going to be thick layers as much as you can while keeping the polish as smooth as possible. Any lumps or bumps you add in the polish will be shown through in the final product. So find a clean spot in your rag. This one's pretty much used up. Wrap it around your fingers. Pop your polish. Start off by dipping your fingers, get it damp in your warm water. Then get a generous amount of your shoe polish and just start going to town. It'll be small circular strokes all around the boot, and go all the way around, working one section at a time. By the time you get done with each layer, the boot should be very cloudy with no shine to it whatsoever. If you start buffing it enough to where it's starting to get shiny, make sure there's no hairs or dirt on it while you're doing this. But if you start getting to the point where it gets shiny while you polish, then the polish won't melt properly and it will get splotchy. Make sure you get all the way down to the sole and you get every inch of the leather covered. And with the bare leather, you start out with a brand new boot just like this. You're going to want to do 3 layers of this, all as thick as the last. You want to build up as much polish on the boot as you can, because if you burn through the polish and you go start heating the leather, then you're going to destroy your boot. I had a little clump of polish there, so I just rubbed it out really good so that it wouldn't show in the final product. Once this starts getting grabby, I can feel it start pulling. You want to re-wet your fingers, because if you continue polishing with dry fingers, then you're going to start pulling the polish that's already on the boot off of it, and you'll just get chunks of polish coming off your boot, and that will obviously lead to an uneven finish. Moving on to the last coat here. Come back when this is done. With the third layer done, and what you want to do now at this point is re-go over it and make sure there's no lumps or bumps, and that all the polish is smooth and generally laying the same direction. So make all the strokes the same direction and get it as smooth as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, because once it melts, it will naturally glass and you'll have a perfectly smooth finish, and that's what we're going for. At this point, we're going to hit it with the heat, and what the goal is to melt it completely through all the layers and to get that polish bonded to the leather. It's best to use it on the lower setting. If you have a hairdryer, the high setting, and then just go in circular motions until you see all the polish melts. It will get very shiny and black. And that's it. That's all the heating you need to do. And it will quickly go back to a very dull shine, but you will be able to tell that it is much shinier than it was before. And while it's still hot, it's just a few seconds, you can see that it's still pliable, but you want to get in there without any water, but using the same spot you were using before, and in small circular motions, go around the whole boot, the whole area you're polishing, and just go in small circular motions until it starts to shine up. Now the heat evens out all the polish and bonds it to the leather, as well as draws out all the oils and wax from the polish. So what you're left with is a polished layer, and on top of that will be a layer of wax and oil. And if you wait too long, that wax and oil will solidify along with the solid dye layer that's below it, and when you buff it, it won't come out as shiny. So make sure you buff it while it's still hot, but it's solid. And we're here now. So go ahead and do this process again, but with only 2 layers of thick polish. I just completed heating and polishing the second layer of polish. This is where we're at right now. It's pretty shiny, and you could probably finish with this, but the third layer really helps the durability of the polish and keep the longevity of the polish going, so that next time you wear the boots, or next time you need to polish them again, you won't even need to polish them. You can just take a horsehair brush and buff it out with the brush, and it'll come back to a pretty nice natural shine. So just brought you back to apply the third and final polish layer. The boot is pretty much room temperature now. It's only been sitting here for a minute or two. The surface is so smooth that the polish goes on very easily. So if you run into problems with it sticking and feeling really hard and grabby, then you are definitely not using enough water. Making sure to get all the way to the bottom edge of the leather, and you should apply the polish to the threads of the seams of the leather, as well as just allowing the overspread onto the soles of the leather and just the rubber parts, because it adds a layer of protection and helps keep the rubber hydrated so it won't crack on you. So there we got our second coat of the third layer. We will start heating it again, and we are still trying to melt all the way through the thick layer that is now on the leather so that we get a smooth, uniform thickness and smoothness all around the boot. Now we'll give that a couple seconds to cool. Usually the time it takes to heat the first boot, put it down, and heat the second boot, you can go back to the first boot and it should be ready. When you put your hand inside the boot, it should still feel quite warm. If it doesn't start getting very shiny right as you start polishing, give it another second to cool down. Now just go in with the same spot that you've been using for the whole boot of your rag, and with small circular motions with light to medium pressure. Even though the boot is very shiny, these swirl marks do tend to give it an odd look. So now that you've gone around the entire boot and you've gotten rid of that haze, what you're left with is this. And as you can see there, as I rotate the boot in the light, you can see all the little swirl marks in there. So what you want to do is, starting from where you started first, the polish should be quite solidified now, so that the harder the polish is, the less marks it's going to take. And with lighter and lighter pressure, you're just going to continue buffing it out. And as you ease up the pressure and the polish cools down, it will take less of the swirl marks. Now if you get into sections like this on the crease of the boot where it doesn't take polish very well, you can feel little crumbs coming off, and that will be just the polish releasing from the leather. And in spots like that, you can't really avoid it, but you can help that by adding multiple layers of polish and brushing it with the horsehair brush to get it to bond to the leather easier, so that it's less likely that it'll come off. That's what we started out with, that's what we finished with in just, 7 coats of polish. What I would do is do this, wear it around a day or two, and come back, clean it, and repeat 2 more layers of 2 coats and heat, and that'll really make the polish pop. Do this to your entire boot. Never forget to obviously do the side straps and the back straps, because once your front of your boot is this shiny, your TI is going to check the back of your boot and the sides of your boot, and if those aren't shiny, well, you're still in trouble. So I hope that was informative, and I hope it's simple enough that everyone can do it and keep their footwear in a presentable manner. So there you have it. Quit asking.